this morning. Okay. On 4A, we're at Vitana Tuna, about 2/3 of the way down.
First one in line is
Mishtavi.
Okay.
Okay, a little further down.
Let's say, hold on. I'm sorry. No, you're right. About halfway down the page. But the first Vitana Tuna.
Faricha is where I left off.
Yeah. Vitana Tuna. We're in that line.
Not a tuna. Can you tuna fish?
Yeah, of course. Okay. We're going with the statement of Rav Chia. What was Rav Chia talking about? Bavametzia is typically when you admit to paying half the money. So then you have to make a shvuah. That's called the shvuas bavametzia. Rav Chia added that not only if you admit to paying half the money, but let's say you deny the whole thing, but the witnesses testify that you owe half the money, you're also included in the category of bavametzia. And this is supposed to be alluded to in our mission. And that's the illusion here is maybe an illusion. Okay. The Tanatuna, Midami. So the Gemara says, is it a similar scenario? Hasam lemilva islay sahadi, leleva less sahadi, lemasik lay. Lemidi, ihav lay sahadi, lev, lemas lev lemidi, lebar of chilish savuye. Hach gehek the not sahadi bahaya and not sahadi bahai. Okay. This is a problem. The Mishnah here is allegedly a scenario of bavametzia. Why? Because the fact that each one is pulling half the garment indicates it's as if there are witnesses testifying that it belongs to him. So it's as if each one is admitting half, because each one's holding half, which sort of that half is theirs, and the other half is what they're claiming. So it's like a bavametzia. Samara says, but there's a fundamental distinction. Imagine the scenario of the real bavametzia, right? So Reuven says to Shimon, "You owe me money." Shimon says, "I don't owe you anything." And then Reuven brings witnesses that he owes him half. Right? Shimon has no witnesses whatsoever. If Shimon could prove that he doesn't owe half or he doesn't owe the whole thing, then he wouldn't pay anything. Over here, both of them have witnesses on half. In other words, there's no witnesses here. The idea is the fact that they're holding it is like there's testimony that they own half. But each one has witnesses on their own half. This is not a bavametzia. And yet they still have to make an oath. So Gemara says, "Holy kasher." Sorry, 1 second. Okay, so Gemara says you're right. The support of our mission to Rav Chia is a different Rav Chia. The Omer Rav Chia, the support of our mission of Rav Chia is a different statement of Rav Chia. What do Rav Chia say? This is very important. So we're learning about bavametzia, right? Bavametzia is you admit half, you have to make a shvuah. We said the famous statement of Rava, right? It was Rav. It was Rav. I'm sorry, Rava. Rava explained why is there shvuas bavametzia? Because people don't have the audacity to lie in front of their benefactors. Meaning, if somebody had the graciousness to lend you money, you wouldn't lie to him. So this is sort of a delaying tactic. That's why you have to make an oath. So there's an exception. Rav Chia taught there's an exception to the rule of bavametzia, and that's called halach. What does halach mean? Jules comes to me and says, "You owe me $100." So I say, no. 50 I've already paid back, and the other 50, here it is, and I hand you $50. That's called halach. In that case, Rav Chia says there's no shvuah. The Omer Rav Chia, let's see, manoli biyadacha. Right? Somebody says, you owe me $100. So Allah and here it is. Chayev, you're obligated to make a shvuah. My time, so what we'll soon see is the debate here. Rav Chia says that halach is obligated to make a shvuah, and we'll see I believe it's Rav Sheshes or Rav Papa that says that halach is exempt from a shvuah. And this is really a discussion of what would have been today, but now will probably be today and tomorrow. Okay. The Tanatuna. And what's the support for this? The Mishnah. Why? So each guy is saying, I own the whole thing, and the half that's mine, I literally own it because I'm grabbing it. And yet we find Yishba, you have to make an oath. So clearly you see that halach is not a reason to exempt yourself. The fact that the money is transacted almost immediately is not a reason why Maida Mixus would be exempt. Rishesha says Halach Potter. Halach is exempt from an oath. My timer. What's the reason? Keeping the Amar Halach and is the command Nokat Lahu Milvadami. Okay, the idea of Halach, according to Rishesha, is that there's no Maida Mixus. Maida Mixus is an admission of half. But if you're dumping down the half payment immediately, if I say I owe you, you're right, I owe you half, but here it is, then I'm not admitting half. The fact that I repaid you immediately at the time of the claim means that there's no admission. I'm admitting right now that I owe you zero because I've already paid you the half that I've admitted. So therefore, there is no half admission. So the Gemara says, "Well, Sheish is kasha masis," and according to Rav Sheish, the Mishnah. What's the explanation of the Mishnah? In other words, in the Mishnah, each one is arguing for the whole thing. Each one basically is grabbing half, which is the half that he gets to keep. So why do they need to make an oath? They should just keep their own half, the half they're holding. It's similar to the scenario of Halach. So Amalach Rav Sheish says, "Masis dekas chamhi." The Mishnah is a special decree, and the reason for this decree is that if somebody finds a garment, nobody nearby should have an incentive to grab it away from it. As if the Mishnah would not require an oath, then if you see somebody who finds a lost object, what would you do? You'd run over to grab it, because then you'll split it without making an oath. So now that you have to make an oath, it makes it more severe, and people will not take advantage. It has nothing to do with Halach. The idach interkan sechamni. So Rav Chia says, look, you're right. It is true that it is a special decree. Umiyu iyam b'shlam midiraisa Halach chayim mitakim rabban shvur ken deraisa iyam deraisa Halach potter mitakim rabban shvur the last have sub deraisa. In other words, if you make a shvur on Halach, this scenario is very similar to Halach. Each is making a claim on half, and effectively they take a claim on the whole thing, and effectively they're taking half immediately. So he says, if Halach is eligible to make a shvur, so then it's true that this shvur is not exactly the same scenario. It is a rabbinical shvur. It's not exactly Maida Mixus here. It's not a loan for that matter. However, one second. It would make sense that the rabbis would enact a decree that's similar to the biblical decree. If biblically speaking, you have to make an oath on Halach, so the rabbis would make a decree for even in a scenario of Halach. But if biblically you would not make an oath on Halach, the rabbis wouldn't either require an oath on Halach. Halach means here it is. So we're talking about Maida Mixus, a half admission. Halach is I admit, but I'm paying you immediately. Effectively, Halach basically removes the admission, because what's actually happening here is complete denial. Because I'm admitting and paying you immediately, what I'm really saying is the part of half of your claim I deny, and the other half is we've already dealt with. That's sort of the idea of why Halach is different. Regular Maida Mixus I admit half, and okay, well now I admit half. I have to arrange a payment schedule. So the admission there is hanging. But in Halach, I admit half, and then I pay it immediately. So Rav Shesha says, well, if you pay it immediately, then effectively what you're doing is denying everything. Because you're saying that you're saying, look, your claim, half it is already settled. Mm-hmm. It's no different. Let's say, for example, a guy says, you owe me, you say to me, I owe you $100. I owe you $100. You want me to pay you. So I say, well, hold on a second. Half I already paid you, and the other half, it's not true. I only borrowed 50. There's no Maida Mixus there. It's not Maida Mixus. I'm not admitting anything. So this is very similar. I'm saying, well, I paid you back. Oh, I didn't pay you back. Oh, here it is. Here it is. I'm paying you back right now. And the other half, not true. That's the sort of idea. So if we don't make a decree for Halach, in other words, we don't require me to make an oath in this environment, then the rabbis would not require a decree in our Mishnah. That's sort of the idea behind Rav Chia. And Rav Shesha says, no, maybe not. Maybe that even though in this scenario between me and you, I would not be, according to Rav Shesha, I am not required to make an oath. in the Mishnah, I still would be required to make an oath. The Mishnah is similar because we're both arguing for the whole thing, and we're both effectively taking half immediately because we're each grabbing half the blanket. Talis. Okay, so basically, just to summarize, this debate of Halach is the debate between Rav Sheshes and Rav Chia, and the next set of Gemara tries to prove this one way or the other. Okay, so the last word on 4a. Meisvei. Now 4b. Slom dinorim. Okay, this is a very interesting scenario. Okay, if I loan you coins, I loan you dollars. How many dollars did I loan you? Document. It says in a document, I borrow dollars from you. Hello. I borrow dollars. How many dollars did I borrow from you?
At least two.
At least two. At least two. Because I use plural. Dollars. Right? How many? Nobody knows. Okay, so here, obviously, this is a setup for trouble, right? Okay. So the guy borrowed slom. He borrowed plural of coins, or dinarim. It's different slom or larger coins, dinarim, smaller coins. It's 4 dinar to a seller, but it depends obviously what type of seller we're talking about. Is it seller medina and a seller tsuri? Okay. Probably talking about here a seller tsuri and dinarim, or 4 dinarim to a seller tsuri. Okay. Regardless, it makes no difference. It's dollars. No, Malva Aimer, the borrower says, well, it was 5, right? So Hill says it was $5. Aimer Chamish. Veloiva Aimer, and me, the borrower says, Shalosh, it was $3. Okay, so here's a complicated situation. Is this considered bavametzia or not? So Shimon Elazar Aimer, Hoil bavametzia, Atayana Yishba. Well, I admitted half, right? He says 5, I say 3. It's partial admission. However, Rabbi Kiva says, Ein yal kamesha aveda upotter. Kiva says, no. Over here, what's the minimum amount? 2. The fact that I said 3 is my own generosity. I could have said 2, and nobody would be the wiser. The document is minimally 2. And the fact that I said 3 makes me generous. And therefore I don't have to make an oath. Okay, well, let's sidetrack here for a moment because this is going to come up many times in the Masechta.
Reduction doesn't say specifically how much.
Exactly, just as dollars. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's clarify something here. Meishiv Aveda. So one day Eric is walking down the street, he finds my wallet. So he sees my driver's license in it, he knows where I am, calls up the DMV, gets my phone number, he calls me up, I'm thrilled. So I open up my wallet, I say, 1 second, it's only $300. Don't you know I carry 10 grand with me? Where's the 10 grand? So Eric says, what do you mean 10 grand? There's only 300. Hold on, you're bavametzia now. Bavametzia. You admitted partially. I said 10 grand, you say $300. And Eric is now a bavametzia. Go make a shvu.
What if he's wearing a lot of bountiful new clothing? He's wearing some new shoes, his new kippah, a new fancy dog shirt. What if he's wearing those things, you know?
So now,
there's evidence.
So now we have a major problem here because I made up a story. Eric was saying,
you got the problem.
Eric was saying the truth. And you figure most guys who are returning the object are probably truth tellers, right? As you might imagine. So they're very vulnerable to somebody attacking them with a shvur deraisa. It's very easy. The victim here, if you can say it, the person who's the loser, the one who lost his item, he gets his item back, and he can take advantage of the finder pretty easily. And like we said, once you have to make a shvua, it's a shvua and everything, right?
It's an oath.
Because the Gilgal shvua. Whenever you make an oath, you can always roll the oath onto anything that any concern that you might have. You can make the guy make a shvua on anything that you're concerned that might cause you financial loss. So basically, the rabbi said, no, we can't let this happen. Otherwise, somebody's going to turn lost objects. Everyone's going to make, again, shvur deraisa is very severe. Like I said, we do not allow people to make a shvur deraisa today. And in the time of Chazal, it was no different. A lot of people would refrain from making a shvur deraisa, even if they were innocent. So what they say? So they said anyone who's considered a meisha aveda returning a lost object is exempt from an oath. You don't have to make an oath. So says Rabbi Kiva, effectively, if the document says dollars and I say 3, that's a meisha aveda. That's giving back a lost object because the minimal quantity is 2. I say 3, I'm generous. Okay. Katani mias. So let's evaluate this. Because it's considered a bavametzia, you have to make an oath. Time of Amar Shalosh. specifically because it says 3. Hashtayim, but if he said 2, that's the minimal amount of the document, because dollars plural is 2. Potter, he's exempt. Okay. So the Gemara says, "V'hai shtar the kamoide bei helachum." 1 second. Because the 1 second. Okay, Shema mina helach potter. Okay, in other words, the guy it says dollars in the document. The lender is arguing for 5. The borrower is admitting 3. Let's say the borrower admitted 2, there would be no oath. Why not? Because the two that are written in the document, you have a document now. Because the document allows you to collect two coins, right? $2. So the document is like a halach. It's only the extra coin that's not in the document. That's the real bavametzia. What's written in the document, that's not bavametzia. That is what the document says. So it's like a halach, and yet we would find halach is potter. In other words, let's say instead of Hill says 5, I say 2. Now I'm supported by the documents. The document says dollars. The minimum dollars is 2. So that would be like halach, because now he has a document to collect from me, and therefore I do not make an oath. Why is this? Because halach is exempt from an oath. If I said 3, only 2 of them is halach. 1 of them is an admission. It's a partial admission. That makes sense. You make an oath.
Okay, the halach is strictly only half.
No, so the concept of halach is sort of where the idea of halach is to negate any admission.
Okay.
So for over here, you say 5, I say 3.
Mm-hmm.
Of those 3, 2 of them are not an admission, because 2 of them you have a document.
Mm-hmm.
You can use your document to collect 2 of them. The third one you cannot use your document to collect from, because if you went to court, you say I have a thing, I'm collecting 3. Court says the document says dollars. Well, we don't know that it's anything more than 2.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right? So that third one constitutes an admission. The first 2 do not constitute an admission. It's written in the documents.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The whole idea of halach is that halach removes the admission. So the classical, this is a little different than the classical scenario. The classical scenario we had was me and Jules, right? Jules says 100, I say 50, and here's 50.
Yeah.
I give him $50. In that case, there's no admission. It's no different than I said to Jules, I paid you back 50 yesterday, and the other 50 never happened.
Mm-hmm.
That's also not a bavametzia. There's no admission there.
Admission to what?
Bavametzia is an admission to part of the claim.
Okay.
So Jules says 100. I say there's no claim at all because 50 I paid yesterday, and the other 50 never happened.
Right. Okay.
I'm not admitting anything. The
Sure.
same thing is if I tell Jules 50, you're right, here it is, and the other 50 never happened. I'm not admitting anything, even though I'm admitting maybe for 3 seconds worth of time until I pay him. But that's not called an admission according to Rav Sheshes.
Mhm.
Rav Chia says it is an admission. Over here, the idea is, look, you have a document. The document negates any admission. In other words, you're not admitting anything when we have a document that we can collect from. So 2 coins, that's halach. The third coin, that is a bavametzia, because then we don't have a document to support us. So the mission implies that 2 coins you would not make an oath. Why is this? Must be because of halach. You see that halach is exempt. So Gemara says, no, I would say that 2 coins you'd also make an oath, because you make an oath in halach, like Rav Chia. Rav Chia says halach, you make an oath. 1 second. Okay. One second. Okay. In other words, let's explain here. Rabbi Kiva has a very good counter argument. Rabbi Kiva is saying, look, the minimum of this document is 2. If I say 3, I'm generous. I'm like returning a lost object. So the reason why we chose 3 as an example in the Brisa is to tell me that Rabbi Elazar disagrees. Shimon ben Elazar disagrees. Shimon ben Elazar says, even though you are being generous, it's true. The document does effectively say 2, because you can only collect as much as 2. You are being generous, but it doesn't make a difference because the document is sort of vague. It doesn't constitute a Meishav Aveda. Meishav Aveda is when Eric finds my wallet on the street and he's exempt from an oath. It's not a scenario when we know there's a loan. We just don't know how much because we have a fudgy number. So then we start having to figure it out. It doesn't constitute returning a lost object. That's why, now, remember, if I would have said 2, then there's no Meisha Aveda there. If Hill says 5, I say 2, according to Rav Chia, that's a Maidav Mixus. So the reason why Rav Shimon Elazar says 3 is not to tell me that you do not make an oath on 2. No, you make an oath on 2, you make an oath on 3. The reason is that Rabbi Kiva would agree that you make an oath on 2, but he doesn't agree that you make an oath on 3. Because 3 he feels constitutes returning a lost object, and Rabbi Shimon Elazar says no, it doesn't, because there's a loan here. It's just a fudgy document. Okay, 1 second.
I mean, it's Gemara, you like the most complex document on earth, so, you don't get it right away, so it's okay.
Kamash Malad, the mix is tiny half of a chab. Okay, but Ihachi, Shimon Elazar, I'm Rahel, behind the mix is tiny Yishba, Afza Yishba from Bavli. 1 second. Shimon also says that 3 of them is considered Maidav Mixus. The correct phraseology should be that 3 is also considered Maidav Mixus. If 2 of them is not considered Maidav Mixus, because 2 is Halach, 2 is not an admission because we have a document. So then it makes sense to say that 3 is the smallest number where you've admitted half. But if 2 is also considered a partial admission, even though it's Halach, because effectively you have a document to support you, then the correct phraseology should be 3 is also Maidav Mixus. In other words, 2 is Maidav and 3 is also. So the Gemara says, El Olam, you're right. Shtayim Potter, if you have 2, if you admit to $2, you're exempt. There's no Maidav Mixus. Okay. And normally we say that Halach would be obligated to make a shvua. Okay, so there's 2 potential resolutions here. Number 1 is that this scenario is a little bit different than Halach. Halach, we said, the classical environment of Halach was where I borrowed money. I say, I admit 50 and here it is. So that constitutes an admission. Whereas when I have a document, I'm admitting to what the document says, that's different. That's not considered an admission. The document already says it. So it's not quite the same scenario as Halach, and therefore, even though in this case you're exempt from an oath because there's a document, in Halach you would be obligated to make an oath. We together? The other possibility is because the document has shivik hakos, because you owe property, and you do not make an oath in kfir shivik hakos. We'll discuss this more at length tomorrow, but you do not make an oath on property. Discussed this already a couple of weeks ago, also in Bav Kamma. You don't make an oath on property because you have a document of property. That's why there's no oath here, and it has nothing to do with the concept of halach. Okay, continue from here tomorrow.
Hopefully,
Okay.
when it settles in for a little while.
Yeah. Okay, we'll review tomorrow.
You're gonna have to go.
Okay, have a great day. Sorry again for the delay. Yeah, thank you for calling.